Hey there, I'm LR Knight. I'm the lead writer on Inheritors, a brand new skirmish RPG hybrid system launching today on Kickstarter. Inheritors is designed to be a fast-playing, easy-to-learn, and highly customizable system for all sorts of tables and situations. I've spent the last 2 years mapping the setting, drafting adventures, and prototyping the game, and I've got to say, as a forever DM, it's my dream system, providing a unique, deadly role-playing game set in a killer setting that puts characters first and engages the whole table. First off, Inheritors abolishes the Game Master, opting instead for a whole table approach that has players cooperating to run both the enemies and the player characters, as well as sharing duties for managing the party and navigating the story. If you want a sense of what combat in Inheritors feels like, imagine the scene in Balin's tomb deep in the mines of Moria, with Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli fighting separate duels with orcs, and the hobbits trying to avoid certain death, and it's all happening separately and yet somehow cohering together into a skirling, swashbuckling whole. It's fantastic, frenetic, and it sticks in the memory like arrow shafts and a mountain troll's back. After a few rounds of Inheritors, you'll wonder, what the hell were you doing before? Just sitting around waiting your turn. The combat in Inheritors, called the hit trade system, is very active. On top of a huge array of actions in combat, whenever your character is attacked, you have options as the defender. You could try to react and defend yourself, you could force a riposte, or you could even try to get out of the way. This is where sharing the load for running the game comes into play. Rather than a single person arbitrating each part of the combat, that responsibility is shared. One player operates the hero and the other the monster, trading off when appropriate. In fact, you can even have multiple duels happening at the same time, resolving events across the battlefield. Activating to defend in Inheritors is pretty different than your typical RPG, but it adds a whole new layer of strategy. It's versatile, fun, and most of all, fast. And unlike traditional TTRPGs, which work best in groups of 3 or more, Inheritors works great for solo players. I don't know about you, but post-pandemic, with a full-time job, and now kids in the house, I don't always have time to get together with the lads and throw dice. I have a whole shelf of books collecting dust that I just don't have the time to really enjoy, and maybe I never will. So I designed Inheritors with our solo players in mind. The Core Rulebook comes complete with a robust compendium containing more than 40 Banespawn and other hostiles to challenge your heroes. But having those monsters isn't quite enough, so Inheritors also comes with a tried and tested enemy logic system that brings fights to life. Rather than simply moving enemy units towards players or objectives, every enemy has particular traits or tags that determine how it might behave, including what sorts of attacks, movements, or behaviors it exhibits. This lets solo players roleplay those enemies without feeling like they beat themselves, which isn't very satisfying, because the Banespawn have their own logic and motives, and it makes it easy to roleplay the monsters when you're playing with a full table. With more than a dozen different creature tags, there's a massive variety in the sort of creatures and strategies you'll be tested against. The point of this Kickstarter is twofold: to provide a cheaper, more economic means of getting the books to people, and to generate some cash up front to commission more interior art. For the sake of transparency, I do utilize some AI-generated content, but that's in addition to art that I already commissioned and which I provided myself. At the time of writing, the book is feature complete. I have a reliable page estimate of about 185 pages, and I've structured the Kickstarter campaign around that printing cost, and I've also incorporated the commission cost to pay the artists a fair price for their work. I'm drawn to tabletop RPGs because of the stories and adventures that you can tell and experience with your friends. I love writing stories, I love sharing them, I like laughing at the memories months later, and I've dedicated my entire career to helping kids get and improve their access to literacy. For me, Inheritors is no different. It grew out of that same desire to tell a massive story about a fallen world inspired by the real Iron Age. The Core Rulebook comes packed with information about this rusted derelict that you'll be adventuring through. Here's just a taste. At the height of a great and terrible war, the Black Crown, the setting's big bad, cursed the world even as he was killed. This curse, called the Bane, is a toxic fog that rolled out to cover much of the settled world, poisoning and corrupting any that it caught. From the depths of the Bane, blasphemous, chimeric monsters were born, as if out of the darkest nightmares. During the ensuing 10 centuries, countless smaller wars and crippling defeats have driven the petty kingdoms of men to the very brink. And the other races, such as the firstborn Aradesh or the secretive Bagran, are little more than a memory. All this changes as the Bane begins to retreat, opening new lands. Now, rumors of great heroes, Inheritors, begin to trickle along the roads. These mighty few are said to bear blazing golden rings out of myth, and are setting the world to rights, marching boldly against the shadow once again. Rumors of their conquests and deeds are kindling a new flame of hope in the cold hearts of despair. In Inheritors, you'll wield one of the 7 great rings, playing an inheritor and their followers. Player customization was one of my priorities for the game design. To build your badass, you'll have options about race, personality, flaws, legendary feats, and yes, plenty of powers. Each class comes with more than a dozen powers, skills, spells to choose from as your character synchronizes with their ring. So whether you're an unstoppable berserker avenging his clan, an immovable knight seeking a branch of the world tree, or a seeker of the blackest arcane secrets, or a lightning-riding sorceress, there's no end to the possibilities for players to explore. I hope you aren't just interested in what Inheritors has to offer, but that you're fired up to play with your friends. That's where the heart of the game lies, in throwing dice, drinking a few beers, and having a great time with your friends. I want to make it as easy and accessible as possible to bring people together for a hell of a good time, even among the rotten decadence and horror of fallen media. I'm LR Knight, and I want to say thanks for listening to my pitch. I can't wait to see where we go. Stay fierce.